Welcome back to the Rounding Third podcast. This is episode 6 of the 2025 edition. Alongside co-host Brian Ogden, we've got our star this week, Raelin Chaffin in the circle, and on the show on Rounding Third here. Raelin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to jump right to it. We had spring break last week, so we were all, for those of you, ready to be queued up with the Rounding Third podcast. You missed us last week due to spring break, but we're back. We're in SEC play, got a lot to dive into. 6 games now in this league under our belt, so we'll get right to the chase here. But Brian, what were kind of some of your thoughts here going into the last 2 weeks for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last 2 weeks have kind of spoken for themselves. We've talked a lot about this team trying to change the narrative and kind of doing things that haven't been done before. And a 5-1 start, first time ever in program history that you've gone 5-1 through the first 2 weekends of SEC play, I think really sets the tone and sets the team up for a lot of further success down the road, because we've talked a lot about how that game is a very mental game, and seeing the success early on. We talked about this when we talked about scheduling, how that success early on can kind of build up some momentum going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, you hit on that, and we've hit on that a couple times this show. Having that stellar Clearwater start. Some of the big wins. We had 3 ranked wins to open up the season down in Clearwater. You had a huge one and a big nationally, publicized bout really with Texas Tech. You and Najee Kennedy kind of going toe-to-toe. Winning that game in 8 innings, I think, kind of really showed some resolve that we had within our clubhouse and kind of really set us up for success to get off to a really hot start, 24-5 through our first 29 games this year. Like we just mentioned, 5-1 in the SEC, first time in program history. It starts at home. News Park was really good to us, particularly in game 1 against Auburn. Had just shy of 2,000 fans, which is saying a lot considering school was out on spring break. So you got 23,000 students gone for spring break, and we still had just shy of 2,000. That really set us up for success. The atmosphere on Saturday night, the kids coming in and signing autographs on the field. I thought our marketing staff did a tremendous job. Would have liked more on Sunday night and Monday night, particularly on the Monday night, the big nationally televised game. Would have liked to see more of a packed house there. But it's always great when the fire trucks show up. And I think we have a pretty good success rate with the fire trucks in the outfield. And those guys were there. They were loud and proud. At one point in the game, I looked up and Bully was up there on the ladder. So pretty cool to see. And I think that's one of the unique things about being in a true college town. You get that kind of camaraderie with the local establishments, and the fire department being one of those.
Yeah, I don't have a note on the records with the fire department there. I have lots of notes on other things. We even have the Coach Ricketts hat record note now that we've started to track. Yes. I do not have the fire track. I can go back and look through some pictures maybe and get you a note on that one.
Well, speaking of the fire department, I think they're 5-0 now in their annual home run derby against the police department. So, police, we gotta step it up a little bit.
Yeah,
the firemen are out there dropping bombs.
Waiting to see when that one will get rescheduled. The police had a couple schedule conflicts, but gives them an opportunity to maybe get in the cages, get some more swings on, and get ready for this year's edition. But yeah, you're right. The police department has not won yet, and I know that they are looking to change that this year.
Well, shout out to the first responders. Really appreciate what they do for our community as well. But anyway, back into Auburn. So, game 1, come from behind, 5-4 victory. And Auburn coming in hot as a firecracker too. They were 20-1 rolling into that game. S.J. Gurin has had a tremendous start to her season. You as well, and both of you guys with a lot of innings. I think you're 1-2 in the SEC now in innings pitched. So a really big matchup. But she came in. Haley Randy, somebody we're familiar with, faced her in the regionals last year and also down in Palm Springs, California at the Marriott. So really got off to a hot start with them. Was pretty successful in the circle for us. Had a couple of big hits for us that kind of got her out of the game and brought in the lefty SJ. And I thought we really took some good swings. Had some balls kind of really go our way. Had some long balls go our way. Had some more that probably could have gone our way that wound up being robbed. Holy cow, that play that Isis made in game 2 in right field was unbelievable. But really just really liked our approach, kind of getting some runs on the board. And it seemed to be 4 is the magic number all week. And we held them to 4 all 3 games, but our offense was able to score more than 4 all 3 games. So we're able to go away with the sweep with Auburn coming to town.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that magic number of 5. Yep. And that Auburn weekend, 5 was enough. 5 was enough every game. Sometimes you got more than that. But that second game, we really saw the bats come alive with the home runs again, yep. Which we had in as well in the opener in Tuscaloosa. But we've talked a lot about the home run ball and what this team can do with the home run ball. And that was something that maybe going into the year wasn't as expected.
Yeah, and, it's a tribute to Marcy and the strength staff. We've hit on them quite a bit. The lineup, we've had power numbers before. Everybody knows the Mia and Fa, the Thunder and Lightning 2.0, as Raphael Palmeiro called them. So we've had pockets of 50 home runs by a couple of people before. Them two, I think, hit 48 or 49 one year, just together. This team's kind of doing it in a different way. 41 home runs through 29 games. Really, it's kind of scattered throughout the lineup. Sierra Sacco's got several. Sosa's got several. Sales has several. Nadia's got several. Jesse got back on the board this week as somebody who's got real home run power. Unlucky with some of the ones that have missed being a homer by about that much, but she had a big one this weekend. So I think it's 8 of the 9 starters now have a home run already for us. So really, there's just a lot of ways to manufacture runs. That's something that we're proud of with the offense, and hopefully we can keep that trend going.
Yeah, so you mentioned the 8 of 9 starters. 5 of those players have 6 or more home runs. And then you talked about multiple ways. We're leading the SEC in stolen bases in conference play. Maybe not as much all season long, but 2 weeks in under the belt have the most stolen bases and the most hits in conference play in the SEC. So you've talked about the ability to get it done a couple of different ways, taking an extra base, and really taking those extra bases has proved to be a big deal in some of these tighter ball games, such as Sunday against Alabama.
Definitely. We had a lot of really key moments. Riley Holwood with a good jump on one of those to get into score position. We're able to score on some ground balls. And you're right, I think we're 7 for 7 now in league play in stolen base category. And that doesn't really reveal the whole truth. There's a lot more plays where there's runners in motion. There's running hits, there's hit and runs, things that may not go down in the scorebook as a stolen base, but you're getting people in motion. You're creating holes in the defense. And, of course, it takes barrel control by the hitters to be able to put the ball in the right spots. Create some chaos, if you will. And that's something that's really worked for us so far this year. Been pretty successful in that category overall. I think we've been caught 3 times out of 38 chances. So looking somewhere around a 92% success rate in the stolen base category. And you're right, that kind of stuff leads into big innings. And if we can get runners into score position and move runners up via a ball and dirt read, one that may not get but a foot or two away from the catcher, but because we're taking a good down angle read at that, getting in a scoring position now, the next base hit, we're able to score. And I thought you really saw that in a tough environment this weekend in Alabama, getting some folks in runners in scoring position, being able to score in advance on ball and dirt, steals on some change-ups, those kinds of things too, and then being able to score via the sac fly. And, the quality at bat to get those runners over was big for us this weekend.
And in the midst of all that, we've talked a lot of offense, but we have to also talk in the circle. So Auburn, a win or a save in all 3 games for you. Alabama, 2 wins in the 2 wins that we had, both of them complete games. You've talked a lot about how you're feeling better than you ever have, and the innings total doesn't really bother you.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to keep going out there and throwing. So kind of what is it that, kind of like you said, just has been different where you feel like you can just keep throwing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like the workload in the bullpen, how it's kind of like always just a feel good scenario. We go in the bullpen and it's never give me X amount of pitches and X amount of whatever. It's just you do what you got to do to feel good. If you want to work on something in particular, we'll work on that. But then it also translates to when I go on the field, my arm's not dead from my recent bullpen. I feel good. I'm ready to go compete. And I think a lot of it too with playing at home is we've done a lot of work like throwing on the field because it makes a difference from the bullpen to the field. So we go throw bullpens on the field, and that has been big with just like location and where I like visualize certain pitches. So Coach Teach really just worked with me on everything I've asked her to do, and that's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, and we'll dive more into that relationship as we get into the kind of Raelin portion of the show, because I do want to hit on that. But going back to the weekend, we've talked about 2 series now, the Auburn series and the Alabama series, and they both kind of ended in a very eerily similar way where you get down maybe a little bit early, take advantage of some freebies, some help, some walks, some errors, some hit-by pitches, and then Sierra Sacco's coming up to the plate with a chance to maybe do some damage, whether it's a tie game or down a run, and the go-ahead run is sitting out there on base, and both times Auburn and Alabama choose to walk her. Now, Alabama was the straight intentional variety. Auburn was more of a we're going to be careful pitch around her, but pitch around her, put her on, and bring Nadia to the plate. And obviously the grand slam against Auburn, go-ahead single against Alabama, but what has that said about kind of the mentality of the team as a whole to, okay, our best hitter's at the plate in Sierra, they don't want to mess with her, so what?
Yeah, I think it's the next man up kind of mentality. We've talked about that quite a bit. But you're also looking at Nadia, a veteran as well. She's had 3 years now under her belt in our program. We talked about her when she was on the show a few weeks ago. a long-time commit. I feel like she's been a part of the dog family for like 10 years now. She was one of the last of the early commits before the rule change. So just somebody that we've had a lot of trust in. She led the SEC in doubles in league play last year. So no stranger to RBIs, no stranger to that spot. And I think it just kind of shows and highlights how strong of a year Sierra Sacco's had. I know Gray was Softball America, was kind of really campaigning for her for early softball player of the year in the SEC, and her numbers are certainly gaudy enough to definitely back that up. But I think Sacco has put herself into a good spot to where if there's a base that's open, they're probably going to try to put her on to get to the next one. And Nadia's just really taking that chip on her shoulder attitude with it, not trying to do too much, get the pitch she wants to hit. I think Coach Rick has done a tremendous job in the dugout with her, getting her ready for that spot and say, hey, first base is open. This could be an opportunity. Make sure that you do the things you're set out to do and really make the other team pay. And you can't blame the other teams for doing that. I mean, I think we'd probably do the same thing if we were in that spot. But Nadia not trying to do too much. You saw the big blast against Auburn. Obviously part of a 7-run inning, all with no outs. And I think you kind of talk about the lineup, and it really takes the bottom of the order, rolling that over into Sacco and Nadia to get us back to the top. And, Styles had a big bases clear and double that scored 3 runs to get us right back into that game at Auburn last weekend. And that kind of really set the table for Nadia's big blast. And once they walked Sacco with the intentional walk, like you referenced a second ago, there's really nowhere to put her. And I think she got to a 1-0 count. Knew that the next pitch, hey, they're not going to go 2-0, and she didn't try to do too much with that swing and put a beautiful swing on one into a grand slam off the scoreboard and, kind of really use that momentum, channel that 7-run inning. It went 3 scoreless in a row with you in the circle to kind of really run away with the game there on toughness Sunday on a Monday on the Monday night series with Auburn. But you saw it again with Nadia. Bases loaded, runners on first and second in that spot, 2 outs. You knew they were going to get something she could handle, and she put a good swing on a ball that was inside and drove it down the left field line to get the go-ahead run in with Greta Grassel.
Yeah. And so Alabama was a bit of a historic weekend. We had the first run rule ever in the series for us on the Friday, game 1, and then come back, win the series on Sunday. First time we've ever won a series there in Tuscaloosa. And then kind of things shifted a little bit, and there was some back and forth banter on the social media accounts, taking some of the things that had been said leading into the series and using them both as motivation and kind of as a celebration at the end of the series. And I think one of the things that Coach Ricketts talked a lot about last night or yesterday morning when she was on the Softball America podcast is it's not so much meant to be kind of a rub it in the face or a we're dunking on you sort of situation. It really is a change the narrative, right? And I think Coach Ricketts played a lot of that audio for you guys to kind of say, like, look, this is what this team has always been thought of as, is that they're not going to have success in the conference. And it's not so much trying to rub something in someone's face, but it really is this is a chip on our shoulder, and this is how we're going to respond and make our own story. And kind of how have you seen that mentality within this team?
I mean, I remember even from my visit, that was kind of the whole thing. She was letting me know when I came here back in the summer that, like, no one expects anything from this team, but we're going to prove them wrong. And I've just seen it in practice, in the weight room. I mean, just in every aspect of this team. It's been really cool to see people just like Morgan Bernardini, Kiara, people who weren't starters 2 years prior come out and just really have like big breakthrough years. And I think that just is such a testament to our coaching staff and people, I mean, our whole entire staff, as a whole. But I mean, just seeing everyone really buy into their roles has really just shaped the whole narrative of this team.
Yeah, and I mean, you still, to some degree, see it. You're third in the SEC standings, but depending on the poll you look at, there could be 6 or 7 SEC teams ahead of you in the rankings. By no means, you mentioned tough day to be a podcaster. We don't want to be on that side. By no means am I saying, like, oh, hey, we should be ranked higher than number 2 Texas right now. Like, there are definitely teams that have earned that, but I do think that there is an element where we have to work a little harder to get the same recognition, right? We can do the same things and sometimes be overlooked. And you've seen that across the board. Specific examples, Sierra Sacco, chip on her shoulder, a kid who had offers pulled coming out of COVID because people wanted to keep 5th-year seniors and didn't have options really going out of high school and has just taken it to I'm going to work and prove it and has been an all-conference player every year. You see Riley Hull has her kind of famous quote now of who's upset? Not me. Every time there's an upset graphic. And, we already talked about Nadia and the mentality she takes when Sierra gets walked ahead of her. But I think, like you said, it has trickled down, not just from the coaching staff who might have that feeling of chip on our shoulder, we're going to have to outwork and prove people wrong, but you've started to see it filter down to the players too. How have you seen that with the players that you've had for 3 or 4 years within this program? Obviously, Raelin has seen it in 1 year, but for you, over 3 or 4 years with those players, how have you seen that shift?
Yeah, I think it's certainly we embrace the challenge, and we talk about gritty, and we talk about toughness, and a lot of programs use those types of adjectives. And we talk about Toughness Sunday. That's something we've really preached on for a long time. A lot of times we wear black on Toughness Sunday. Our black uniforms haven't been as friendly to us, though they have been in years past, so we may have to change that up a little bit. But it is a mindset. It's hey, we're going to have a Texas-sized chip on our shoulder. We're going to go about it with the workman's mentality. We're going to bring our hard hat, bring our lunch pail, all the different things you hear, the cliches you've heard before. But we're going to live that. We live that in practice. We go hard in practice quite often. I'm sure a lot of other teams do as well. But it's just kind of an attitude that you got to have. And sometimes you're looking for an edge. In a 56-game schedule in 13 weeks, what kind of edge can we bring to the table? And we try to put our players in situations in practice where there is an edge element involved to it. And I think you see that going into some of these conference weekends too. Every weekend in this league is like a super regional. We talk about that a lot, that there's no easy road in this league, and you're never guaranteed the next game. You can play really well and not win. You can play really bad and win. Like there's ugly wins. There's pretty losses, but at the end of the day, did you win or did you lose the game? And sometimes you can play pretty well and lose, and you just got to learn from that and move on and get to the next thing. And sometimes you can play pretty good and play pretty bad and win. I mean, that kind of stuff happens with it too. And we talk about that being in some inexpensive experience when those things kind of go your way and you still find a way to win, even though maybe you didn't have your best game there. But I think the big thing about the series this weekend is it's such a tribute to Alabama. It's such a tribute to what they built over the last 20, 25 years in this league. We won in front of 3,551 fans on Sunday afternoon. And, it's kind of a weird layout with the 2 games on Friday, no game on Saturday. We commuted back and forth, something we've never done before, but with the storms and everything kind of coming our way, knock on wood, we were spared in Starkville. We really dodged a bullet in terms of some of the bad, severe weather, and same with Tuscaloosa too. But, just really a tip of the cap to what Alabama's program has done. They've done a tremendous job building a unbelievable atmosphere. It's so good for the game. The crowd support they have, the fan support they have on their social media teams, and the following they've got is really kind of helped be one of the things that have highlighted the SEC and really our rise to fame, if you will, in terms of how strong this league's gotten over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And so going into that place is never easy to win. Knowing that you're going to have a big crowd, you're going to have a strike zone that may expand, it may not, it may shrink, it may not. You got to overcome anyway. We had a situation where we had a double play to end the ball game, and then it was not. It was a pitch that they deemed to be illegal, so we had to get 2 more outs the hard way in the 9-1 win in Game 1. And that's part of life on the road in the SEC. Sometimes it's going to be a challenge, but really proud of our kids for overcoming some of that adversity and finding a way to win the series anyway.
Yeah, and so a little bit of breaking news here for you on the Rounding Third podcast. We talked about her earlier, but Sierra Sacco has been named a Softball America Star of the Week. So essentially the equivalent of their National Player of the Week, as they've changed it up a little bit this year. But let's talk a little bit about her and what she's brought. I know we've kind of hit all around her, but in conference play, a 1590 OPS.
Seems pretty good.
Seems pretty good. The on-base percentage is over 700. The slugging percentage is over 800. Just what has she been able to do in conference games to get out to such a hot start?
Yeah, I think the big thing she brings is a kind of a calm presence, somebody that understands the strike zone, first and foremost. We pride ourselves on being able to get on base no matter what, whether it be at the HBP or whether it be the walk or whether it be a CNI single, whatever the case may be, and trying to find a way to get on base. And Sacco does a tremendous job of setting the table. I think we're 51-8 in 2 years with her. If she scores, the odds are pretty good in our favor with the 51-8 record when she's able to score. And I think you're seeing that right now. She's been on base, I believe, 27 straight
27
games?
straight games. That's the 9th longest streak in school history. And in the middle of that, a 14-game hitting streak, which is a career long for her.
There you go. So having her on base really sets up the offense, and having professional hitters behind her too with Nadia, not trying to do too much, hitting behind a runner. Quickly, in like 3 pitches the other day, we had a 1-0 lead. Sierra got on, Next pitch, opposite field to right, scores Sacco. Now you're off to the races up 1-0. And so having somebody behind her to protect her, if you will, really kind of helps the offense go. There's a lot of trust we have in Nadia and what she can do, whether it be a protective steal, whether it be a hit and run, whether it be a run and hit, whether it be a get the bunt down. She's kind of a jack of all trades, and being able to be more of a whole hitter, somebody that can really do all the different things to be a complete hitter. And so we trust her in the 2 spot. That's somebody that's really taken that and run with it too. We mentioned at the first of the show, she led the SEC in doubles last year. There were a lot of times that Sacco got on and quickly Nadia hits a double, and now we're up 1-0. So we kind of see some of that rollover already this year. But Sacco, just a very professional approach, not trying to do too much. Sure, she's got some 280, 290-foot home runs, but she can also drop a bunt down and run a 286 to first on you. So she really kind of takes whatever the defense gives her, and it's something that we can really hang our hat on and with the senior and the way that she's kind of gone about getting on base for us.
And this is a perfect time to kind of transition to the more Raelin portion of the show, because you mentioned scoring early, and I wanted to ask you about this. So Mississippi State has outscored opponents 35-12 in the first inning. A quarter of our home runs have come in the first inning. 40% of our runs this season are in the first 2 innings. Going on the road, and this was kind of our first true road game, but you get the opportunity to get in the circle and you already have a lead. Is there any preference to maybe pitching on the road because of that versus at home? Kind of what does that change do for you in the circle?
Yeah, I will say at home, it's like when I'm out there, Rickett says it all the time, the pitchers, kind of determine what's going to happen in the first inning. So, I'm setting the tone out there, but whenever we're away, it's kind of flipped. The hitters are setting the tone. So when they come out hot, it kind of just gives me more motivation to go out there and, hold that standard of like, we're going to get out here, no runs. But yeah, it's just huge. The amount of relief I feel whenever we have a couple of runs out there, it's great. But regardless, our defense has literally been incredible too, with just diving catches, double plays. So it's just all in all, yes, it helps, but I feel really, really confident in our team regardless.
And you and Sierra have kind of had the opportunity. We've talked a lot about her as a leader of the offense. You've kind of been the leader of the bullpen. How have the two of you worked together to kind of be that veteran senior leader? And Jessie too. I know she's a big voice in it, but kind of out of those 3, what does that leadership dynamic look like?
Yeah, Sierra's a big voice. I am more just kept to myself. I am just, encourager. I'm not one to really, fire up the team like Sierra, and even Jessie will as well. But I just think for me, I'm just there for, support. I just, love our entire staff, love our entire team. But yeah, where Sierra will really get us fired up in between innings. I'm just there if you need someone to talk to or some advice. But yeah, it's just been, I think we have a little bit of everything that we need. We don't need everyone to be super loud encouragers. We need some people who are, quiet and kind of just, watch from the back a little bit. So I feel like we have a little good mix of all of it.
And then I know there's a lot of film watching that goes on with this team. A lot of times when you're watching film, things are cut down to the actual play. So maybe y'all miss out on the lead into the innings or kind of the storytelling that the broadcast does. But one thing that has come up a lot recently is the trend to show Raelin Chaffin today side by side with Taryn Mowat McKinney from back in the 2000s. And it's eerily similar. Like, the way that y'all pitch, the pitch types, obviously she's taught you and worked with you on some certain specific pitches, which we won't give away the secrets, but it really is funny to me to watch them play those clips back and almost see just like a little Taryn in the circle again. Talk about the relationship that you have with Coach T.
Yeah, from the first time where she called me over the summer, immediately, I just knew, she gets me, I've never been 6 foot. I'm 5'6". She's shorter than I am. So it's we don't fit that, pitcher mold of being a 6 foot, long stride, drop ball type of pitcher. And so just to hear her kind of relate to me on every aspect of pitching, I was like, someone finally gets me. Someone gets what I like. I'm not a normal. I don't have perfect mechanics. I just kind of go out there and I shove, and that's what it is. And so she just really got me. And then I get on campus and just, it's never just her way or the highway. She is just understanding, and I keep saying, but she just truly, truly gets me, and I think that's what's really helped, not even just me, but our whole entire pitching staff's, success this year. It's just solely based around her. She's just one of a kind and truly incredible.
And T-Brat, you've known her for a while and maybe even have seen her pitching more than some of these others have. Where do you see the similarities?
Well, I think it starts with the mentality. Taryn is as fiery as competitor as it gets. I think with our whole staff, you see, we hate to lose. Number one, and it doesn't matter if it's in trivia or anything. We want to win. We're fiery. We want to win. But I think you see, Taryn's last year, I believe, and this maybe the junior years. It's late in her career. I think she threw in every game but 7. She en route to a national championship, pitched in every game but 7. And I think you're seeing that, she wanted the ball. Hey, I want the ball, want to win. And I think you're seeing a lot of that in you. Like, you want the ball, you want to win. And going into the recruiting process, you hit the portal this summer, and I had a lot of talks with Scott Smith, somebody that you know really well with the Bomber organization, and he's like, Bratton, man, there's more in there. There's more in there. She's a dog, and that word keeps coming up. She's a dog, and we're the Bulldogs, so like, well, we're dogs too, so it kind of worked hand in hand. But he really, spoke big time on your behalf. Obviously, the tape doesn't lie. There's stuff that you did that was really at a high level. And I think being able to kind of have that presence with Taryn has really been huge for us because, I'm pretty sure Taryn right now could come out in the circle and, her ball may not move as good as it did when she was on her way to winning 2 ESPY awards, but she would compete against our hitters right now and probably be pretty tough to go up against. And that's just that mindset, that dog mentality we talk about quite a bit. And I think that's something that she brings to the table. You saw it a lot with Aspen Wesley last year. Aspen had never really had success in SEC games until all of a sudden she did, where she had a lot of SEC wins last year. Was one of the top, I think, 4 or 5 in the whole league in terms of wins in the SEC a year ago. And did that just in year 1 with Aspen. I think you're seeing a lot of that here with you, some of the similarities. And a lot of the trust. I think the trust goes a long way, and the trust is on both sides. We got to trust you. You got to trust us. There's a lot of that goes along with it too. And it's been good to see from afar kind of the way that you and Coach T have really worked together to get off to such a hot start this year.
Yeah, I think the number was something like 28 complete games by the whole pitching staff over the 3 years before Taryn, and they're already over 30 in a year and a half. And so when you talk about wanting the ball, it's pretty hard to get you to come out of a game, I feel like. What are those conversations like in the dugout? Are there ever any of those back and forths of like, do you want one more? Kind of how does that go?
Yeah, no, there's never been that kind of conversation. I just kind of, even when things get tough, like I know first game against Auburn, the first inning was rough. I walked the, first 2, give up, 4 runs. But the entire time I just knew, like, we're going to win this game. And I think the coaches knew that as well. And I knew that I wanted to be out there and, help win this game for my team. But, yeah, never in my mind when I go out there am I thinking about getting pulled. I just have the mentality that I'm going to go the whole way, the whole game. But, yeah, I just want to compete, want to win for my team. I don't care, how many runs I give up as long as we score one more to get that win. I just want to win, want to compete.
Yeah. Now, on Sunday, you kind of had a little bit of an interesting post-game interview. And the post-game interviews have gotten to be really fun. Like, let's break these down a little bit because I think it kind of started last year at Missouri. Nadia had her post-game interview and the props and the shenanigans started up. And then Nadia gets the interview again after Auburn and the props and the shenanigans start up. You kind of got the double whammy of the props and the shenanigans and then a little bit of a maybe cold surprise at the end of it. What have you – let's walk through that from your perspective. When did you realize something was going on behind you?
I didn't. I don't remember his name, but the guy who was talking to me through the headset was like, throw the headset off and look behind you. And I'm like, throw the headset off. Like, I'm not going to throw it off. I'm just going to hand it to the guy next to me. And then I feel it get ripped off and I turn and then I just see Jesse in the big orange, crate of water. I'm like, oh man. But I loved it. I will take a, cold shower every day to get that same, feeling for that win. It was just awesome.
And it's kind of spread beyond just the post-game interview to sometimes the in-game interviews as well. What's the anatomy of a good kind of in-game interview shenanigan, T-Brat? Like, what do you think are the necessary ingredients?
Well, I think you got to have the right, probably, characters involved, if you will. One thing that I think is cool to see that we've been televised, and we get televised a lot, so does a lot of the SEC softball teams, but you're able to kind of get a little glimpse into the personalities of some of the players. And And, whether it be some Jolly Ranchers in the dugout, whether it be some signs and some caricatures going back and forth between the other teams, you kind of see some really unique stuff, particularly on Mic'd Up Monday. And I think Coach Ricketts had a pretty good Mic'd Up Monday.
Coach Ricketts had a phenomenal Mic'd Up Monday moment.
But I think it's cool to see kind of that we can be competitive on the field. We can do all these things that want to win. But it's kind of neat to see kind of the looser personalities within the clubhouse too. And kind of seeing the gloves stacked up, the goggles made out of paper cups, the different dance moves you might see in the background of some interviews, and just different ways of kind of showing that your personality, kind of letting your personality show to the rest of the world, because everybody sees what you do between the white lines. But a lot of times you forget that these are people, and we're a person first and an athlete second. And I think it's kind of just a unique way of letting the characters kind of be revealed between our clubhouse.
Yeah. The pitchers don't get as much opportunity to do that, I feel like. But the hitters, they kind of all have a different celebration for base hits, doubles, home runs. Do you have a favorite celebration for one of your teammates?
I like Nadia's home run celebration. That's my favorite. But I'll never forget Paige doing the little knee, hands over her knees dance when she got a double. That probably trumps all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also, I have a special feeling towards Sierra's sprinkler just because it's so consistent. Every single time you always have the Sierra sprinkler. So I kind of like that one. And I think the gritty and the fact that we had kind of players joyfully, playfully fighting over who gets to do the gritty on the home run, I think is another point. To your point, T. Brad, of just seeing the personality of this team and how everybody kind of interacts with each other. But I think it's about that time.
Yep. It's about time to head home. When you're round the third, you're headed home. And now we look to the week ahead. We're in the middle of a true road series. I think we've got 8 consecutive road games. So surely we're the road warriors right now. We've got another challenge with us on Wednesday. We'll head to UAB. Played them earlier this year. Taylor Smart's got her team really playing well. Had a really good series with FAU this past weekend. All 3 games pretty competitive there. So excited to get on the road again. We'll leave here tomorrow, head on to Birmingham. We've got a game against UAB. We'll spend the night. And then we'll hit the road to Big Ten country. We'll go up to Northwestern. First time we ever played them. So we played a couple of Big Ten teams already this year, most notably down in Clearwater. So a great opportunity to play a very strong Northwestern team, a team that has a ton of postseason experience. World Series in recent years, Super Regionals in recent years. Had a really good showdown in Tuscaloosa a couple years ago in the Super Regionals in the 5-12 game. So excited for the opportunity to go up there. We'll definitely need to bring our coats. We're going to leave, the friendly confines of News Park to head to the friendly confines near Wrigley Field for those Cubs fans back home that understand that reference there. But excited to get up to Northwestern. That'll be fun. We'll fly out on Thursday. And, 3 big games this weekend there. Then we'll come back home and get ready for a road game against Southern Miss. And then Texas back home here to get back into SEC play.
Yeah. We were talking before, I've never been to Chicago, but the two of you definitely have. Yep. So tell us a little bit about your Chicago experience.
Yeah, so this summer I went and worked with OGX, which was incredible. Super thankful I got to work with them because the whole plan was I was going to see them twice, once over the summer, once in the fall. Well, I had my, whole thing in the fall, so I only got to work with them once. So I'm thankful I went down there, got the opportunity to work with them. But yeah, Chicago was great. Not so much, downtown and the heat of everything, but just it's gorgeous there, but yeah, I learned a lot from OGX that I am still, using to this day.
Yeah. And you've been multiple times.
Yeah, been quite a few times. Been to a Cubs game or two over the years. Obviously some big recruiting tournaments have been there in the past. And our convention a few years ago, the NFCA convention was in Chicago. So I'm not really a big fan of heights. But me and a couple of buddies, we decided to go up into the top of the Sears Tower. It's like 110 floors up, and they've got this little glass floor that you can kind of walk out on and look down. And yeah, the wind gets pretty windy there coming off of Lake Michigan, especially when you're 100 floors up. It's your ears are popping in the elevator. So I likely will not do that this time around. But a lot of really cool things to Chicago Millennial Park, and there's a lot of really neat things. I think they just dyed the river green, and according to Kylie Edwards, who's from not too far away from Chicago, maybe a couple-hour drive near Indianapolis to get to Chicago, she informed us the other day on the bus that the river will still be green for the rest of the month. So maybe we'll get a chance to peek into that and see what that's all about. But excited for the opportunity with Northwestern. We got the game on Friday afternoon and then a doubleheader on Saturday, and then our early morning on Sunday flying on back. So really excited for this kind of break from SEC play, but a really strong weekend with a Big Ten foe. And I think South Carolina and Texas Tech have another really strong weekend too. So it's good to see some of these marquee matchups on the bye weekends, if you will, with us in Northwestern and then Carolina and Texas Tech.
And getting out of conference play, we've talked before about it's kind of the out of conference play sometimes is more important than the in conference for RPI purposes and things like that. And you have a saying that you love to use whenever we go on the road. We are on the road to
find out.
To find out. So big weekend this weekend as we go kind of find out what this team is made of. Obviously, a strong start. Like you said, a little bit of a break. We'll go out to Chicago, try to find out some more about this team, and then get right back into conference play after that to kind of wrap up the season.
Yep. Well, speaking of, we'll wrap up the show. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 6 here in 2025. Signing off for Brian Ogden and Raelin Chaffin, I'm Tyler Bratton, Hail State.
Hail State.